Hello. Hoping everyone's doing well. I am. Thank you very much. Somebody asked me recently when I was married, when did I first know that my marriage was probably not going to work? And it's funny because just recalling the moment, I was like, damn. And it was a while ago when I was married or whatever, but in being married, I was one of those ones who was taught to be submissive and, how to run the household and that type of stuff. And so when I was married, I would get up and make lunch for him. He had to be out. He was out of the house before 6:30, 6 o'clock. Um, he was out. So as you can imagine, I was up early making lunch, and ladies, y'all know how we do when we be making those lunches. We got snacks and juices and water and a couple of different sandwiches if you want this, if you want that. If you get hungry a little later, here's a little this. And you know how we do. Their little favorite snack, it might be a little pack of Skittles, a little Snicker bar, But anyway, our lunches were a lot, a lot of love went into those packages, but nonetheless, um, it was a Saturday morning. And on Saturdays, I would typically get up and, maybe, go down and make breakfast. I had two children at the time when I got married, and they were probably, I would say, 5 and, 14. And so, I'd get up and, I didn't really have to get up and do much for them. They knew how to, move around the kitchen themselves and, cereal, whatever. So I decided that I wasn't going to get right up or whatever. I was a little bit tired. Due to my ex-husband the night before we were up for a while or whatever. So here it is. I would say 9:30, 10 o'clock, in the morning on a Saturday. I'm laying there and king size bed. I'm laying on my side and my back is to him. And I feel him moving around. And for just a split second, I felt like I needed to hurry up and get up, because he's about to get up before me. And just at that little moment, I really didn't like how that felt. So I decided that I was just going to lay there. I'm like, okay, well, let me lay here and see what happened because I'd never done that. And I would say, I mean, we weren't in a very long time at this point or whatever, somewhere within the first 3 months, I would say. And I'm laying there and I feel him get up off the bed and I'm laying there just kind of, he don't know that I'm awake. And I feel, the pillow move or whatever. And there was some, super silent seconds there or whatever where I felt like he was just maybe looking at me. So next thing you know, I feel the tug of the blanket and or whatever. And it turned out that I was lying on part of the sheet was, I guess, wrapped under me or whatever. And he started tugging that. And on about his third, serious tug, I just, I said, so, and I turned around and looked at him. I said, it's making sense to you to try to make this bed or whatever it is that you're doing while I'm still lying here resting. That's what's making sense to you right now. So he's standing there, holding the sheet, talking about, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking or whatever. And I believe you. I believe that you don't know what you were thinking. I believe that because I'm laying there looking like you big dummy. And it was at that moment where I was like, oh wow, this right here is probably not. This is not gonna last. If I've got to kind of work, and help him in that area, pulling him up, you know, um, from that way of thinking, whatever that is. And I was like, okay. And I knew that, I'm not the most patient person in the world. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do a whole lot with that. So it was either going to change or it wasn't going to change, or, or whatever. But I knew that it would come crashing down at some point, because that to be able to do that, to like whatever's going on with your noodles at that point, it, to me, it's looking like things are a little too far gone, a little bit too far gone to work on. Like, that's how much sense it don't make, none, not a little bit. So I knew at that moment, I knew right then. I was like, damn. Because nice guy, generally. Nice guy, generally. But that was crazy. It was crazy as hell. It was like, what in the world? And it's like, just recalling it, it's just crazy as hell. I shouldn't have got married. I knew I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have. Getting married was one of those things I should never have done. But you live and you learn. So there you have it.